Welcome back to the channel. Today we have one of my rebuilds that returned again after, well, somebody backed into it. This is the 13 Enclave that we rebuilt, I don't know, about a year ago maybe. Link's up there if you want to see what it looked like when I fixed it the first time. So, it was sitting there parked, someone backed into it, they did the number on it. I told you, red cars are cursed. So it was a service truck backed right into the corner here. We're going to need a fender, it's all buckled underneath here. We're going to need a door. It actually bent the inside of the door, it's not just the skin. And it buckled it all the way back here and broke our chrome molding here. So we're going to need a newer style door. Our rocker molding is all bent up, so also need a wheel opening molding and a wheel liner. Sadly enough, the most expensive part of all of this is probably going to be the wheel opening molding. The door, Scott's Enclave Emporium has a few of them, but they're not the right color, so I think I might spring for a door in the right color so I don't have to edge out the inside. Save me a little bit of time and aggravation. Fender, nah, I'll see what they got, and the wheel opening molding is probably going to have to come new because junkyards usually don't have it. Maybe I'll get lucky and I get a fender with a wheel opening molding and a liner, but I'm not counting on it. So probably going to have all new parts, and I can get a used rocker and a used door. So let's go see what I find, and we'll be back in a minute to put some parts on. So while we wait for our parts to arrive, we'll start taking this thing apart. We'll pull out the closeout panel. Just got a bunch of little push pins in there. Pop the centers out, and then pop them out of there. Once all the clips are out, we can try and take it out of here and then realize that the gasket in the back is still attached. Just got a couple little Christmas trees in there that push into that plastic piece, so we'll just pull them out of there. We'll get that one on the other side. And our closeout panel's off. So we'll pull our tire off of here. It's going to be in our way to get the wheel liner off, so we'll just pull it off and set it off to the side for now. We can unscrew our wheel liner from the bumper. And we're going to take the wheel opening molding off, so we'll sneak our hand back there and you can push the tabs in. That way you don't break the tabs. It's just good practice because this molding is garbage anyway. At least that's my theory of why I did it. I could have just ripped it off and it would have been the same. There's a couple screws in the bottom of the wheel liner that hold it to the bumper. Grab those out of there while we're here. And our bumper's free. Pull it back a little bit. Then we can start unbolting the top of it and unbolt our headlight. We'll take the screws all the way across the grill off. That way there's a little bit of slack in our bumper. We're not going to take it all the way off the other fender, but we need to move it back enough that we can get to all the hidden bolts for the headlight. And these bolts in the bottom of the headlight, you got to get to them with a ratcheting wrench. This one is actually behind the bumper support. The bumper support is actually supposed to go on after the headlight, so we can still get it out of here. We just have to work around the bumper support since I don't want to take it out. It's extra work. There's one screw that holds the fender and the headlight in. And our headlight comes out. So we can just unplug it, toss that in a pile. Now we can unbolt the back of our wheel liner and also our rocker molding. We'll grab the push pin out of our liner here. Then we can peel it back. One of our J-nuts was ripped out of our rocker molding, so we'll resist the urge to hold it with our fingers, grab it with our trim clip pliers so that we still have skin on our fingers. And we can use those trim clip pliers to pull the rest of our little push pins out of here. There's quite a few. And we can pull the back of the liner off. And there's one more clip up at the top. Now we can take it off. File. Pull our front section out. There's a little trim piece at the end of our cowl screen that just clips into the fender. So we'll pry it out of there.
And there's a tab in the back that slides underneath the fender, so slide it forward and slide it out of there. And now we can see the screw that's in the back. And the only way to get this one out of here without breaking the windshield is a short little socket and primitive hand tools. So it's a T15 Torx, so we'll just spin it out of there. Now we can pull the little trim piece in the back corner of our fender off. We're going to need this out of the way so the painting gnome can paint all this. You can't take the fender off with it still on. Got one screw in it and then 3 little clips. We'll try to save them, but no guarantees. And then we can just slide it out of the drip rail. These doors are pretty easy to take off. There's one bolt in this hinge that goes up here and it lifts off. 2 down here. This hinge just stays with the cowl, comes off the door, and then the plug. So we'll take out the bolt that's closest to us first. That way it's out of the way and we can get a straight shot at the next bolt that's inside with the ratcheting wrench. Otherwise it's kind of awkward, you gotta go around it. Or walk all the way to the toolbox and get a ratchet and a short socket. No door check. Door check's part of that hinge. Then we get our electric ratchet in here to take our bolt off the top. And we could just lift our door off. Find a good place to grab it, give a wiggle and lift. It's not coming off, so we'll have to get the door stand. Just lifts right off. And I didn't have the door stand centered, so. Not that I'm really worried about damaging that door, but the one on the stand right behind it, I don't want to damage that. So now we can pull our rocker molding off. We'll pull out the little gasket at the bottom. It's just held in with a bunch of little Christmas trees. And now we can see the clips that hold our rocker molding in. So we'll get a pick behind them and push a tab on one side, then you push the tab on the other. Hold a little pressure out on the rocker and pop them out of there. Now there's a couple down inside, so we're going to use a spatula for those. Get this gasket out of the back. You can see the rest of our clips. And we're going to go work on the fender for a while because, well, my patience will run out with that rocker molding. So we'll unbolt the top of our fender. Then we can unbolt the bottom of the fender. One bolt in the middle and one at the top. The one at the top is slotted, so you don't have to take it all the way out. Okay, back to the rocker molding. Get the rest of our clips out. This rocker molding is 2 pieces, so I'm trying to split them apart and get the last clip on there. Not very easy to do. I broke it. So we did get our door in the right color, and it had a couple dents on the outside, so we're gonna have to paint the outside, but since it's the right color, we don't have to strip down the inside or edge it out or anything like that. Because there's so many of these in the junkyard, I have my choice of what color I want. So I requested this one. It cost me an extra like 20 bucks, but the time I save painting it and materials, it's worth the $20. So let's throw this on and we'll get our fender whenever it comes in and throw that on. So we'll set up our door on our door stand. Got it centered this time. And we just drop the top hinge down on those pins. Our used door did come with new hinges, but there's no reason to change them. I'm pretty sure these are okay. We're about to find out. So I just took them off. I put this door on the same way I took the other one off. Just move the bottom one around and get the bolt started. We can start both of these bolts. The bottom ones have shoulders on them, so they are self-aligning. We'll snug them up. Just the outside one that we can get to. We can start the other bolt. And then we'll tuck our wires up here so we don't smash them. And we can close our door. Now we can get to those bolts from the front. We can actually use power tools. Tighten them up. We get to that top bolt. All of our tools are set to off. We need to turn them back on. And plug our wiring harness back in case we need to use anything in the door. And see how our door works. And the door handle didn't work so well. We'll put that back on. Closes nice. So all of our gaps on our door are nice except for up here. The door's too far out. It's okay here and here, just this edge. So biohazard probably means it was hit pretty hard, and I did see the pictures. It was blasted in that side. So it could have been from the accident. It could have been from shipping when they tied it down. They might have just bent the top of this door out. Since everything lines up, it's not the door itself, so we're going to straighten the top. Of course, this wouldn't be my channel if we didn't have a specialized door adjustment tool. We're going to bend the top of it in a little bit. And we didn't want to go too far, but we didn't go enough. So we'll have to install our tool a little bit more, get a little more pressure, and now the door is perfect. Ship it. And there's our door gaps for quality control. Wasn't lying. It fits. I guess our hinges are okay. So now we're going to strip our door down because they need to prime it, and the painting gnomes are going to have to sand it after they prime it. So pull the belt molding off. There's just one screw on each side, and it just pops out of there. Then we're going to strip down the rear door because we are going to blend the door. This door is probably one of the easiest to tear down for paint. Pull the screws out of our belt molding, lift that off. Pull the little cap out of the back. Get to the screw for our cover for the back of our handle. Pop that cover off. Pull our handle back. Disengage it. And then pull the gasket out. Our door is stripped and ready for paint. Now we're going to pull the lower door molding off the front door. There's a little bit of damage on the front of the front door. Not really damage, it just chipped up a little bit, so they need to paint it. This molding has to be out of the way for that. We can tape off the back one so we don't have to redo the two-sided tape, so that won't be a problem. But in order to get this molding off, we have to break the two-sided tape all the way around. Try not to gouge up the paint any more than we have to. And then the molding just lifts off. There's a couple of clips in the back of it, but if you lift them off, the clips stay in the door, and then we can just pop the clips out, similar to the ones on the rocker. In case you're wondering why they're different colors, the yellow ones are longer. They have guide pins on the back to help you line up the holes, and then the other ones are just regular old clips. Now we're going to use our magic eraser to take the rest of the two-sided tape off of there. If you are tired of using your thumb, you can pick one of these up in my Amazon store. Saves a lot of skin this way. And now it's ready for the priming gnome. And the priming gnome has been here, and so is our parts delivery driver. And he brought our fender. Not from the same car as the door, even though they are the same color. They both came from Michigan, both came from different yards. Both delivered by Illinois yards. Funny how that works. I take that back. Both parts came from Michigan. The fender was delivered by an Indiana yard. The door was delivered by a Chicago yard. So we'll start with our little torque screw up on the top. That's the hardest part to align, so we'll line that part up, and then we'll get everything else straight from there. We're just going to use our old paint marks on the fender. That should line everything up. There was no damage to any inner structure, so everything should be pretty close. And it looks like all of our gaps are looking pretty good. Except we forgot to put the fender inside the bumper. The gap on their door is nice. There's a little plastic piece that goes inside there that closes that out later. We'll put that on after we paint it. The hood gap is looking good. We're not even going to bother fitting the headlight. We'll just hope for the best. Our Enclave is all painted, so let's throw it back together. So now we'll fit the headlight. We'll see if our gamble paid off, or we're going to end up messing up the painting gnome's work and he's going to be mad at us. It would have taken us about 5 minutes to fit that light, but I was pretty confident that everything was going to fit where it belongs. Since the fender went back in its original paint marks, this fender really wasn't messed up too bad, so everything should fit. It was fitting right before and after the accident. We'll bolt in the back of our light. We'll bolt our fender and our light together. And then we'll get the bolts that are hidden behind our bumper support. Slowly but surely. And the one that's down at the bottom that is very inconvenient. Even when the bumper's not in the way, it's inconvenient. We'll pull the bracket off of our old fender and put it on our new fender. Push the bumper up there, clip it in with the bumper installation tool, and we can screw in the top of the bumper. Give it one last check, make sure we didn't forget any fasteners. And we can put our closeout panel in. So if we did forget any fasteners, no one's ever going to know. Set it in there. Our little rubber gaskets on top. And start putting in all of our push pins. And there's a foam filler that goes between the fender and the door, so we're going to put that back in there. I guess that's the alternative to carpeted fender liners or glued in fenders. I will take a piece of foam that attaches with a couple Christmas trees any day over those two options. Now we can put the cowl screen extension in the edge of our fender here, slide it up underneath in that tab, and then clip the little clips into the fender. Tuck it back under the hood. Now we'll put our rocker molding on. We have to clip it into the rear rocker molding and then line up the clips and snap it in there. You want to make sure that you get the clips lined up with the holes before you go pushing it on, because every once in a while you get one that doesn't want to line up, and it really complicates things when one of the ones in the middle doesn't clip into the hole. One last clip on the front edge goes into our fender. So we'll line it up and clip it in there. We don't want to push too hard. That fender is made out of Plutonium. And now that our rocker molding's in there, we can put our gasket back on. Actually, we could have put this on before, but we could put it on after as well. And the back tucks into the inside of it. We'll put the tab in there and clip it in. And I did score a wheel opening molding with the used fender. I paid a little bit more money for it, but since this is a $250 molding and the price of the fender was only 50 bucks more, it made sense. Now we can put our rear door handle back on. We'll put the gasket in first. Slip the handle in the front, slide it forward in the back, and put the little cap on there. We'll slide the belt molding in. Clip it in with our belt molding installation tool. We can put our screw back in for our cap, hold our handle in, make sure it works. Then we'll put the little plug in. Put our screws back in our belt molding. And our door is fully assembled. Nice and easy. Now we can put our lower molding on our front door. We'll pull off the plastic for the two-sided tape and toss it on the floor for the sea turtles roaming the shop. I think you need something to play with. We'll line up the pins on the back. The yellow one's kind of guided in there. Really can't get it wrong. Snap it in. And we'll push all the way around it. Make sure that that two-sided tape is sticking. We don't want this molding coming off until the next time somebody runs into it. Now we can put our little triangle trim piece here in our upper rear corner of our fender. Slips into the drip molding just the chrome surround molding. And then we'll push the clips in. I did break a couple, so I had to run over to Scott's Enclave Emporium and pick up a couple of clips. And then we'll just put the Phillips screw in the back. Now we have to strip our driver's door apart. So we'll pull the little cap behind the handle off, the one behind the grab handle, and then there's some T30 Torx bolts behind those. Spin all those out of there. And we'll start prying off our door panel. Once we pop enough of it off, we get our hand underneath there, we just rip it off. Then we unplug 4 plugs and the door handle. Then you can pull the trim around the top of the window off. One little Christmas tree in the back, and then it just clips in all the way around. And there's one metal clip up in the front. Pull our mirror wire off of there, and pull our window sweep out. We'll pop this gasket off of our mirror, and take out the nuts for our mirror. Push the wires out of there, and we'll set that off to the side. Pull the screw out of our belt molding, and the screw out of the back of it, and then pull our belt molding off. I want to use the original belt molding because the used one had some scratches on it. And we'll pull the speaker out, stab it with our trim clip pliers, and we'll try to get this wire off of here, but the magnet keeps grabbing my pliers. I want to use the original speaker because I know it's good. So we got it unplugged. There's a part number on this harness, and it happens to be the same as our other door harness, so I don't have to change that. Not changing that wiring harness saves me quite a bit of time, and I normally change it just because you never know what might be different, but when you can verify it that easy by checking a part number, you can be sure that it's the same one. It's not worth changing. If you don't know, then it is worth changing because sometimes it can be a pain. There might be one wire that's different, and you don't find out until you put it all back together and then hit apart and change it anyway. Now we're changing the door glass because the used one is dirty and I never put dirty parts back in the car. Right now we're elbow deep in this door trying to get the glass disconnected from the regulator. Since I didn't have power, I had to reach up there with a wrench and loosen it up. We'd already unbolted the regulator to drop it down a little bit so we didn't have to reach quite so far up there. We'll save that and put that in a different pile. Slide the glass down, tip it forward, and then slide it out of there. We're going to pull the cap off for our door handle. We need to change the lock assembly because our key is different. So we pull the handle off the outside. We can unscrew the door latch. And then we need to take the window channel out only because it is in our way. We just loosen up the screws, slide it up, pop it out of there. Twist it out of our way so that we can get our lock assembly out of here and unplug it. We'll slide the door lock out of the door, and it came off anyway. We'll pull the rest of our lock out of here. And our cable is still attached to the door. Let's squeeze the tab on the back so we can save that clip in case we need it. And we're ready to put it back in our other door. I'd already taken it apart. I didn't think you want to watch it twice. I didn't want to do it twice. So we'll start our screws in our latch. The handle on the outside slides back, and it just hangs on the little bolt that sticks through from the other side. Put our window track back in. And we can put our rod back on. Put the door latch loose. We got enough movement in there that we can clip it in. tighten up that screw on the outside for our handle. Put our gasket in, slide our handle forward, and put our cap on. And we'll tighten up the screw in the back to hold it all together. So since we had power for this door, I just plugged in the wiring harness and lowered the glass down to where it's serviceable. There's a hole in the door there, and we can get right at the screws. So we'll take it out and toss it around and hopefully not drop it. Although if we do drop it, it's laminated, so it won't turn into a 10,000 piece puzzle. We'll drop our new door glass in there, complete with original dirt. You didn't really think I was going to clean it, did you? I may clean the top of it, you can actually see, but no guarantees. We'll rock it back into the channel and then slide it down into the regulator. Get it lined up. And once it's lined up, we can bolt it down, put our window sweep in, put our little clip back on for our cable, and we can put our water barrier back in here. Line it up, and stick it on there. And there's a little piece of foam that goes in there. Goes on with some push pins. Put our belt molding on the outside. Flip it down. And put our mirror on. A lot of wires in that mirror. Put one nut on the back of it so we don't end up with it on the floor. And then we can tighten up the rest of the nuts on it. Flip in the wiring harness. And the rest of the wiring harness goes to the other plugs on the door panel. Screw our belt molding in. And put our little cap on for the cover on the door handle. We'll put our original speaker back in. And we'll put the trim around the top of our door. Start in the corner, flip it all in. Shoot it on the two bottoms. And pull the gasket that's inevitably tucked inside of it back out of it. Now we're ready to put our door panel on. Plug in all the plugs and our handle. Set it down on the window sweep. And line up all the clips and then smash it in the door. Make sure our window works. Make sure our mirror works. And now we can put our screws behind our door handle and the ones behind our grab handle, and then put our little caps back on. So all we have left is to put the fender liner in and wash it up. But I'm going to do all that over there because I need to put it up in the lift. A lot easier to put the fender liner in, and I got to change some other parts. Yeah, there's a little too much spring in its step. In addition to our bouncy struts, we also have a side detection message on the dashboard. So we'll pull the codes out of that and see what we're going to need to do with that. Okay. I believe it's a right and a left side. Yep. Eeny, meeny, miny. Let's try our right side. Okay, here we go. We got our codes. Well, I'm going to cheat. This is the software update, the E. That's a somebody's been here before code. It means that that module was replaced and it was never programmed with the proper VIN number. That is a hardware code. You're going to find that it's probably going to be that blind spot monitor. Now, did I get lucky and find the bad one, or do we have two bad ones? Let's go check the other side. Ah, somebody's been here before too.
not uncommon for these modules to go bad. They get hit with all the salt and slush and mess and rain and everything. They're right behind the wheels. It does take a toll on them up here in the land of corruption and rust. So I could show you how to test it and we could pretend like I want to waste that kind of time, but the fastest way to test anything is with a known good. And we just happen to have one on this side. So I'm going to pull this monitor out of this side, plug it into that side, see if our code goes away. If it does, simple as that. We know we need a monitor. They're pretty easy to get to. Just that simple. So if you need one for your car, find one of these in the parking lot, but I didn't tell you that.
So our freshly painted tailgate for when I rebuilt it didn't last long. It's a little misaligned, it's got a big dent on it and some scratches. Apparently the garage is just a little bit smaller than the Enclave.
We're gonna plug the other one back in this side just to make sure we don't have any problems. That's it. Okay, let's see what we got here. And our code is gone. So the problem moved to the other side. Means that we definitely need that little blind spot monitor. Now that code, let me let you in on a little secret. The somebody's been here before code, the software code, that one won't turn any of the warning lights on. So if you don't program it, nobody's gonna know unless they plug the scanner in. So if you wanna save yourself some hassle, some money, maybe even save your customers some money and not program it, doesn't really matter. So leave it in there so that somebody knows somebody's been there before. And just go ahead and get a used one, makes it plug and play. So, in the pile. Also, a lot of times, I just got it out of the pile. You can see this one's actually starting to split a little bit. A visual inspection is all you really need because the water gets in here, freezes, opens it up a little bit, then salt water gets in there, and yeah, you get the green crusties inside. I'm not gonna open this one up because, well, I don't care, I know it's bad. So we're gonna head over to soccer practice and see if we can find one of these in a parking lot and save our customer even more money.
Now, since the little princess got the car up on the lift, because you can't work on the ground, we can put this wheel liner in. Front goes in first, put a couple push pins in there, and then we can screw it into the bumper. And you want to push the wheel opening molding in because the wheel opening molding is a little bit adjustable. So if you push it in and tighten it up, it's nice and tight. A couple screws in the bottom, and we'll put the rear section in. This one's brand new. You can tell because it's clean. Well, it's not brand new, it's used. Put our push pins in there, and put our screws in the back. Screw in our rocker molding, and put the rest of our push pins in. Now we can start changing our struts. We're going to pull the ABS wire off first. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you. I am wearing gloves because these struts are blown out. There's oil all over them and it's going to make a mess. So I'm trying to keep my hands clean because, well, I got my other job as a hand model coming up after this. So now we can put a pair of vice grips on the back of our sway bar link and buzz that off of our strut. And then we can unbolt our strut from our knuckle. Takes a little while. GM was very generous with the Loctite on these. Once we get the nuts off, we can knock the bolts out. They're splined in there. So we'll get a hammer in there and awkwardly whack at it. The awkward hammering is 10 times more effective if you make the hammering face. So we got it free. I'm just gonna wiggle it around, get that bolt out of there. And our strut's free on the bottom, so we're gonna go over the other side. We're gonna do the same thing. You can see a little better. A little more light on this side. Can't swing the hammer any better though. I must have sold this car to the Duke boys because I'm not sure how else you'd blow these struts out this bad. Now that the bottom of our struts are disconnected, we need to gain access to the top. So there's a little ground lug on there, so we'll spin that off. And then we'll take out our push pins for our closeout panel that we just put back in, and a couple across the cowl screen. We'll pull out the edge of the cowl screen there. Then we need to pry the cowl screen over the stud where the lug goes onto and pull it out of there. It's kind of trapped between the electrical box and that. Reach in there and make sure we can see the top of our struts. Then we can install our factory service tool. It's the Lambda platform cowl screen spacer, so we can gain access to the top of our struts. We'll unbolt the nuts on the top and attempt not to lose them in Narnia. There's just enough room to get in there without taking that cowl screen all the way off. This is the easy side. There's no wiper arm at the edge. That's why I chose to do this side first. We're on to the last nut, so we got to hold on to the strut before it ends up on our toes. Not wearing my steel-toed flip-flops today. Grab the nut out of there and drop the strut out in the pile. Now we're going to do the same thing on the driver's side. We're going to put our cowl screen spacer in there. This side's a little shorter. Can't pry up too much because the end of the wiper is there. So we have a little less room, but still have just enough. And of course they make the studs on the top of these struts like half a mile long, just to make this job a little more complicated.
Pile.
Now that the struts are out of our way, it's a perfect time to change our sway bar links. So we're going to do that. I could have changed these when the struts were in there, either before or after I replace them, but this way it's much easier, it saves time, and if you're saving time, you're making more money. So it might only be a couple minutes, but it's a couple minutes worth of profit. So you just put our vice grips on there and just a ratcheting wrench, and we're slowly going to work the thing off. It'd be nice if we could get power tools in there, but we couldn't. We got the nut off, spin it off the rest of the way by hand, and our sway bar link is ready for the pile.
In the pile.
Now we'll pull the one off the other side. We're going to do it the same way. And it's 10 times faster if you make the sway bar link loosening face. There's a lot of faces involved in this procedure. And this is the one that was making noise.
In the pile.
So we got our new sway bar links. They're a little bit different style. The nuts are a different size, and the flats actually have a place where you can put the wrench on, so we don't need to use the adjustable locking hammer anymore. So we can put our wrench in there, use our ratcheting wrench on the other side, and tighten them down. Go over the other side, do the same thing. We'll start the nut by hand, and then we'll get our wrench in there. Now we can toss our strut up there. And if the OEM struts weren't bad enough, the studs on the top of this one are even longer than the last one. Helps for lining it up and getting it started, but it means that there's going to be a lot less room for us to get our electric ratchet in there. So we'll start with the hard to get to one first, because as it draws it up, it'll make the other ones harder to get the ratchet on. The hard to get to one is the rear one, because that cowl screen just doesn't have enough room. So we'll get the front ones, and we'll get our ratchet out of there. Pull our little OEM tool out of there. And set the plastic down for now. We'll head over to the other side. We get our strut started in there. And tighten it down. A little bit more room in this side. Not much. Then we gotta tuck the cowl screen in over that stud. Our closeout panel in there. Extension in. And then start putting our little push pins in. We'll also screw the lug on our stud on the firewall and tighten that down. That's for when you want to jump the car. That's where you hook the ground wire because the battery is conveniently located under the floor in the back seat. Now we can put the extension on the driver's side. Tuck it in there. Plastic's a little deformed, but once we pin it down and it gets a little warm, it'll reform itself. The rest of our push pins in our cowl panel. And we got to rotate our strut because somehow they managed to put both of them 180 degrees off. You just spin it around. Push our knuckle into the strut. Not quite turned enough. The holes lined up and push the bolt in. First one's always the hard one. Now all you got to do is wiggle it in and out and we should be able to get the bottom one in. Put our sway bar link in. Make sure we don't have it on the wrong side of our ABS wire. Now we can tighten up our strut nuts that hold it into the knuckle. You use a wrench on there to keep them from spinning until the splines get drawn into the knuckle, and then you can take the wrench off and it'll tighten the rest of the way up by itself. Plug in our ABS wire, well, clip it in, and then we can tighten up our sway bar link, and this side's done. We're going to do the same thing on the driver's side. Our bolts in, our sway bar link in, plug our ABS wire in, and tighten up all the nuts.
Thank you. May I have another, please? I have grease fittings on the sway bar links, so I will grease them for the first, last, and only time. Nobody's going to do this. Hope it lasts forever.
Okay, clean freaks, I know you're still hyperventilating because I put a window in that was dirty on the bottom where you're never going to see it, so I'll throw you a bone. We're going to pressure wash our car to get all the soap off of it from the overspray mask. I got a new toy and I want to try it out. It makes the whole cleaning thing just a little more tolerable. So in a future video, I'll tell you how I like it and give you a chance to get one for yourself. So our Enclave is all finished up again, and I know you're going to ask, the bodywork, the door, the fender, and all that stuff that we changed, the total cost for that was just under $3,400. And all the mechanical work was another $800.
We got rid of our nasty dent in the bottom of our door and fender. The front end of the car rides nice and smooth now because we put those struts in there. It doesn't make any noise because we put the sway bar links in there. We got rid of that nasty warning light in the dashboard for the blind spot monitors by changing the monitor on the right rear. And I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to give it back to the customer and hopefully I don't see it again for a while. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you when one of my other customers crashes my work or I find something to rebuild. Thanks for watching.
I don't ever slow